Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome and thank you for watching. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. So, this is about the Argentinian client, Black Goo, and the angry Maldek AI. So, this is a bit of a weird story, and well, it kind of sprung off from an interview I gave a few years ago to an older man. I think he was called Michael Beaver, with his YouTube channel Profound States, and he had asked me for an interview after I appeared on Alex Ferrari's Next Level Soul podcast. But this man was more interested kind of in the dark side of things. And funny enough, his lighting during the interview was quite dark. So at one point he was sitting in the dark and had to switch on some kind of lamp to get some more light into the surrounding and the recording. And that happened several times, that he had to change the light or switch it on and stuff like that. That was metaphorically a very interesting thing I noticed. And he was going off mostly on one of my not so pleasant experiences when I encountered during a QHHT hypnosis session a demon in a client and tried to remove it, which only happened the second time. The first time I could not remove that negative entity. And he was very much interested in the dark stuff and the negative stuff. I'm not so much into that, because the more you dwell on that, the more you attract it. And at the end of the show, more or less, in public, he kind of forced me and showed me off, forced me to to give kind of a medium statement by asking me suddenly, which had nothing to do with the interview. It would have been, to me, in my understanding, more a question that belonged into a private session, a reading or a medium session. He suddenly asked me, do you sense anything with me? I have a negative imp that's kind of plaguing me. And well, that push button and now you deliver as a medium puts the poor person, in that case me, a bit under stress. And as I'm rebellious, I went like that inside of me, and I didn't like it. But I could not feel anything dark or bad or negative with him, because I already made or had the experience that imps are not generally bad and negative and stuff like that. I encountered some kind of neutral, even positive imps that had soul contracts with the persons to make them aware of their own psychic abilities. That's why they kind of spooked around in the house and threw off books from the shelf, or framed with glass pictures from the wall and stuff like that. So he had kind of a negative impression that there is a negative imp with him, plaguing him, and I could not verify that, and I wasn't too happy about that situation, kind of at the end of the interview. So if you like, you can look that up. It's Profound States, and the guy is called Charles Michael Beaver. And that interview is not of my favorite kind, because it's a lot about the dark stuff. So, and after that, of course, a lot of people with these kind of dark problems, having entity attachments or negative influence and stuff like that, came onto me, of course, talking about that, you attracted. So you better be careful what you talk about and attract by that. And one of the weirdest experiences was with an Argentinian client. She wanted to have a session with me, and as she obviously had no space of her own, which often happens with women, they're everywhere in the flat or in the family house, in the living room, the kitchen, or the bedroom, but they don't have a space or a room of their own. While most men, the husband, the father, has their little hobby cellar or their room in the garage or the attic where they tinker with tools and stuff like that. And it's more or less this old-fashioned, traditional female role model that once somebody phrased, who was it, that weird guy doing films, very ironical films, now I'm missing the name. Well, you might know him, it's not important who it is. He once stated, a woman belongs to the oven, and the oven belongs into the bedroom. So that's the statement encompassing the role of a woman, with kind of playing the nurturing, motherly, Mother Mary part, cooking for the family, especially for the men, and the other half, well, is serving in the bedroom, and that's all. Well, I'm not very happy with that. I always rebelled against that as well. So, but I had a lot of clients, female clients, that did not have a space of their own. One, for example, a German woman, in the beginning, for a few sessions, she called me up from the bathroom. And of course, you could bet on that. I was already waiting for that. Every session we had via the telephone in the beginning, that sooner or later her husband or her son was knocking at the bathroom door. Mother, are you okay? And that looks like caring, but to me the message is, she has no space and time of herself, and she does not even claim her own space. So everybody coming along is allowed to disturb her from whatever she's doing. And she wasn't even able to tell her family, hey, I'm having a session with the medium. I want 1 hour uninterrupted, undisturbed by anyone. And that's it, you know. So this woman wanted, the Argentinian client wanted to make the video call with me from a public cafe in Argentina. Oh my gosh. Even if no one understands what we would be talking on the computer via the video connection, as she was of German descendants, she maybe thought no one would understand it, because usually in Argentina they speak Spanish. But to me that was like a slap in the face. She did not even understand. I had to explain to her, you cannot do a medium reading or session where there obviously will be a part where I have to speak certain strong commands to remove foreign energy attachment. And even if no one around in Argentina would understand the German words coming from me, the energy is still working. That's why you can do sessions on the phone without seeing the people, just having the vibration of their voice and the connection via the telephone, or nowadays online via video phoning. So I had to pull that tooth and tell her, no, that's impossible. I'm not going to do that. You have to get a space. Tell your family you need 1 hour or 2 hours uninterrupted and undisturbed. And she said, no, I cannot. So we ended up with her being in her car. And the whole time during the session, she was on a parking space. I could see some guy hanging around on a wall and from time to time looking at her into the car, what she was doing there. That wasn't very optimal, but okay, the best she could come up with. And I had several female clients who could only find their own space sitting in the car and having the session with me there. So she told me that she was member of a group and followed some kind of teacher or guru or whatever, where she learned and exercised various things that to me sounded kind of negative and black magic. And when she talked about that guru or teacher, I felt only darkness and a great cold, like the cold in space, hundreds or 1,000 degrees below zero, this astral cold. So that was very weird, and I had no good feeling about that teacher. Luckily, she found that out as well on her own and then left the group, but she was already kind of infiltrated with a lot of not very fruitful thoughts, ideas, and concepts, and she gathered foreign entity attachment via being a member of this group and following that teacher. And she was kind of showing me, even in her car, she was telling me, there is this kind of black or dark grayish powdery stuff showing up all around me. Even here, look in the car, there is this stuff I can clean as long and as much as I like. It's always showing up again. And when I sensed into that, whoa, that was really weird. Because I got a feeling of this is not human, this is alien, and it's not from Earth, and it felt like a very weird half-liquid substance reminding me of oil, but it was intelligent, it had consciousness, and even felt a little bit like AI. Programmed AI. So I had already heard about black goo, and that was my experience with black goo, because that teacher had a connection to that and was maybe already infiltrated by that, maybe already had nanites within him, connecting him to that black goo intelligence that's also called intelligent oil sometimes. And as far as I know, it's 60% carbon based, so it's like graphene, and you can structure graphene. Maybe you heard about that certain graphene patterns showed up in vaccinated people. Wow, that was it. And where do you think the black goo comes from? I got an idea where it comes from, because I'm also interested in the flood story and the civilizations before that, and the exploded planet called Maldek or Tiamat, or even with more other names, just sowing confusion. So, where do you think all the water that rained down much more than 40 days and nights onto Earth. Where do you think that came from? When the planet Maldek or Tiamat exploded in a war. It was a watery planet, so the water was kind of set free. The more dense matter is found in the asteroid belt as the remains of that exploded planets, but the water became ice in the cold of space and it reached Earth. Like gas also is moving through space with kind of the sun wind and other movements in space. So that was the rain that came down as causing the flood on Earth 10 or 12,000 years ago. And with the water came the angry AI that was used on the planet by the inhabitants. And it wasn't angry in the beginning. It was serving them, like AI is used by many positive ET races, serving them for their benefit and their good. But as the planet was destroyed, this substance where the AI could kind of go into to survive and embody in that was very angry because of the destruction of the planet. And with this anger, it came down to Earth together with the rain that made up the flood. And maybe you heard about the Falkland Wars, about tiny, unimportant seeming island in front of the coast of Chile and Argentina, belonging to the British Empire. And they fought over that with Chile. What do you think that was all about? Some unimportant island far away from Britain in front of the coast of Chile? That does not make sense at all. I heard, and it felt like that in the session I had with this Argentinian client, that this black goo substance that came from planet Maldek or Tiamat down onto Earth was found in the Falkland Islands, and that was what it was all about. Both countries wanted access to that and use it for their whatever secret black projects, to mess around with something they don't really understand and don't know what they are doing. And there's also findings of this black goo substance in Chile and Argentina. So it made a lot of sense, and it taught me a lot to understand about our human history. So that Argentinian client, although I wasn't too happy about that, was bringing me in contact with the black goose story. And as I still like to watch TV from time to time, as a graphic designer, I'm a very, very visual person. I like images. There are even several episodes in the X-Files with Scully and Mulder about the black goo substance. Of course, with the typical Hollywood exaggeration, and as always, some truth wrapped in a lot of lies, but it's treating the topic of black goo, intelligent oil. And that is also, as I mentioned in some other videos, that most of the lower rank reptilians and alpha draconians are infested with nanites, that's exactly how they get infested. They come in contact with the intelligence. They sometimes even take that substance into their system. And of course, it can be structured by use of, for example, sound waves or scalar waves. You can use scalar waves for healing or for killing or for structuring something negative or positive. So that's how the nanites form in a body. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I was able to help her at least a little bit and remove from that Argentinian client all the connections via that kind of teacher or guru, the way or the connection via which this substance came into her field, first astrally and then even manifested as powdery dust everywhere around her. And she had to clean and clean and clean, and still it showed up the next day again. So that sounded very much like graphene, and when I sensed into it, I got the feeling of black goo, and I got the origin of the black goo, and I got its vibration, that it's angry because of the destruction. So here we go, my clock. A synchronicity, kind of verifying what I'm saying. I take it like that. Well, there's enough evidence about all of that if you start doing your own due diligence and research and find more information about that. Of course, you will also find all this debunking stuff because we live in duality. If you say something, of course, immediately someone else says the contrary, and then you have to use your discernment. And I already told you quite often discernment works best via using your intuition and gut feeling. Close your eyes and feel into it, whether you resonate with what I say or what someone else says or not. You know, that's important. And you can feel into themes, topics, and other persons, their stories, and you get a first impression. That's what a medium, a trained medium, is trained to work with. That is impression beyond the analytic overlay, beyond your intellect, and it's got nothing to do with your normal rational thinking you use every day here in the mundane world. So I was able to remove the connections and seal them so that no more of this negative energy could come into her field. And then I had to remove some spaces within her astral field that were already contaminated by this kind of black goo intelligence, negative AI that had taken over parts of her astral field because she had allowed it in by being so open to a wrong teacher, a false prophet, in best belief maybe, and well meant, but it did not end up so well. And she was a bit psychologically abnormal in her behavior. I could detect that. You know, as a medium, I learned that I don't only have to be a medium, I have to be a detective as well. Being able to detect and deduct things. And also, I kind of have to be a psychologist in some cases and use psychology and psychological skills more like a coach, although I don't really feel so well with that. You know, I resonate more with mediumship and using your own psychic senses, but you need a little bit of both. It's a mixed bag, as we are a mixed bag as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and blessings. liberation and fortitude for you, beautiful souls on your soul path. Bye.